My parents called me a dropout. Look at your sister. I secretly built an $83 million tech firm while she wore a $20,000 gown. They are begging now. It's funny how life can change so quickly. A few years ago, I was the one they labeled a failure. I dropped out of college at 21, convinced that what I was building, my company, was worth far more than a degree. They never understood. My parents were proud of my sister, Sophia. She was the one who had it all. The MBA, the perfect job, the engagement to Nathaniel Grant, whose family owned half of Texas. They called me the dropout and compared me to her constantly. And the thing is, they never stopped. At every family dinner, at every holiday, they'd say, "Look at your sister. Sophia this, Sophia that." The perfect daughter. I was never good enough. But they had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. While Sophia was out there chasing accolades and buying dresses worth more than my apartment, I was quietly creating something that would change my life. It wasn't an overnight thing. In fact, it took years of late nights and sleepless weekends, but it was worth it. I had always known that small businesses needed better tools to compete with the corporate giants. I saw it in every store I visited, every business owner I spoke to. They couldn't afford the expensive software that big companies had, and the cheaper alternatives were terrible. So, I taught myself how to code. I spent months learning how to build a customer relationship management tool that would be accessible to small businesses. It was called Client Flow. While everyone thought I was just wasting my time, I was slowly building a business. I signed my first clients, and within a year, I was making $7,500 a month in recurring revenue. By the time Sophia was planning her wedding, I had over 800 clients and was making $170,000 a month. But no one knew. Not my family, not my friends. I kept it all under wraps, pretending like everything was just normal. And then came the wedding. Sophia's wedding to Nathaniel Grant was the event of the year. The Rosewood Mansion in Dallas. An extravagant ceremony that cost $350,000, with a guest list of 300. Everything was designed to perfection. Her perfect wedding. Her perfect life. And then came the text. "Rachel, we need to discuss the wedding. Nathaniel's parents have been inquiring about our family and are quite image conscious. I believe it would be better if you didn't go. You would feel more at ease anyhow. I hope you understand." The words stung. You would feel more at ease. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't invited to my own sister's wedding. And it wasn't even because of anything I did. It was because I wasn't good enough, not rich enough, not polished enough. I was angry, but I didn't show it. I simply responded, "Understood." Sophia called right away. "Rachel, please don't be dramatic about this. It's not what you think." I could hear the words in her voice, the same tone she used when she'd always told me I wasn't enough. "I'm not being dramatic. You asked me not to come, so I won't." Her voice softened for a moment. "You understand, don't you? The Grants are very particular about who they associate with. They don't like anything that could make them look out of place." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I understood perfectly. I just wasn't part of their world. Not in the way Sophia was. I wasn't the perfect daughter. I wasn't the one who had it all figured out. The wedding was in 3 weeks, but I already knew what I was going to do. I wasn't going to sit at home and watch from the sidelines as everyone celebrated her perfect life. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into the Governor's Business Awards website, and clicked on the event calendar. The Austin Governor's Business Awards was scheduled for the same night as Sophia's wedding. The ceremony would be held at the Four Seasons, and they were honoring the best of the best in Texas business. The under-30 division was the most coveted, and I'd been nominated. I could have gone to Sophia's wedding, but now I had a different plan. I wasn't going to let them keep me in the shadows anymore. I was going to be seen. Sophia's wedding would come and go. She would walk down the aisle, and Nathaniel's family would nod approvingly at her perfect life. But me? I was going to be somewhere else, somewhere where my success would finally speak louder than their silence. And that night, I was going to take the stage. I spent the next few days in a whirlwind. The wedding was still looming, but my mind was elsewhere. I'd told myself I wasn't going, but the idea of showing up at the Governor's Business Awards gnawed at me. It wasn't just about the award. It was about proving something to myself. to my family, to everyone who had always doubted me. The days leading up to the ceremony were a blur of emails, calls with my team, and last-minute preparations. I was putting together everything I had worked for, everything that had been hidden behind the scenes for so long. No more pretending. When the night of the awards arrived, I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the midnight blue Alexander McQueen dress. It was something I would have never bought before, something I felt I had earned. I took a moment to look at myself, really look at myself. The person staring back wasn't the dropout. She wasn't the girl who had been overlooked or dismissed. This was me, Rachel Taylor, founder and CEO of Client Flow, and tonight, I wasn't hiding anymore. I felt a strange mix of pride and nerves as I walked into the Four Seasons. The atmosphere was electric, the kind of place where people knew how to make an entrance. But I wasn't here to impress anyone. I was here to claim what was mine. The room was filled with the top business leaders of Texas. CEOs, investors, lawmakers, people who had the power to change the trajectory of my company. As I took my seat at the front with Ethan Harris, my CFO, and two of my earliest investors, I could feel the weight of the moment. This was my chance to prove that I had built something real, something that couldn't be ignored any longer. The ceremony kicked off, and I could feel my heart pounding as the awards started. One by one, the nominees were called. My name was last, and when it was finally announced, the room went quiet. They read off the accomplishments of the past few years: 8,000 businesses served, $21.5 million in annual revenue, a valuation of $83 million. I walked to the stage, each step feeling heavier than the last, but not from fear. From the realization that this was it. This was everything. The governor handed me the crystal trophy, and as the applause filled the room, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. But the moment wasn't just about the recognition. It was about everything that led up to it. Every late night, every doubt, every rejection. It was all worth it. And now, it was my time to speak. The governor handed me the microphone and asked what drove me to create Client Flow. I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling on me, and said, I noticed that small businesses weren't getting the support they needed. They couldn't afford the tools that big companies had, and the cheaper alternatives just didn't work. So I created something that would change that. I built this company for people like them, people who deserved a chance. The room was silent, hanging on every word. And you left college to pursue this? Someone asked. Yes, I did, I said, letting the truth ring out. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. The room responded with laughter, but not the kind I was used to. This wasn't mocking or dismissive laughter. It was recognition, it was respect. I had finally earned it. I paused, looking out at the audience. And to anyone out there who doesn't have the support they need, who feels like they're being told they can't make it, I just want to say, build it anyway. Because when you succeed, the people who truly care will be the ones who celebrate with you. The applause that followed felt different this time. It wasn't just a formality. It was genuine. It was for me. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, I didn't need anyone else's approval. I had mine. I stood on that stage, taking in the cheers, the flashes of cameras, the whispers of admiration. It wasn't about the award. It wasn't about the money. It was about everything I had worked for, the recognition, the acknowledgement, the ability to finally stand tall and say, I did it. But I didn't forget where I came from. And I didn't forget the family who had rejected me. Because tonight, in front of everyone who ever doubted me, I had finally become someone worth acknowledging. And it felt damn good. The next few days passed in a blur. The awards ceremony was behind me, but the emotional weight of it stayed with me, lingering like a quiet storm. For once, I felt like I had the upper hand, but that feeling didn't last long. Not when I got the call from my mom. It was late in the afternoon, and I was in the office, finalizing a deal with a potential investor. The ringing of my phone broke my concentration. I glanced at the screen. Mom. I hesitated before picking it up. Rachel, honey, we need to talk, she said, her voice tight with something I couldn't quite place. I didn't say anything at first, waiting for her to speak. I saw the Forbes article, and your father just saw the pictures from the ceremony. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say anything about what you've been doing? I paused, my chest tightening. I wasn't sure what I felt. Was it anger? Disappointment? Maybe both. I had just received the recognition of my life, but somehow I was still the one who had to explain myself. I didn't think you'd care, I said, keeping my voice calm, though I could feel the frustration bubbling up. You were too busy with Sophia's wedding to care about what I've been doing. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, so long that I wondered if she had hung up. But then she spoke again, her voice softer this time. Rachel, it's not that we didn't care. We didn't know. You've always kept everything to yourself. I scoffed. I've kept everything to myself because every time I tried to talk about it, you would change the subject or compare me to Sophia. You never asked. You never cared to know what I was doing. Her voice cracked, just slightly. That's not true. We've always been proud of you. You're proud of me now? I said, my words sharp. But when I was working from my tiny apartment, scraping by, you all just thought I was a failure. When I dropped out of school, you thought I was throwing away my future. You never asked what I was building, Mom. You just judged. She sighed, and I could hear the weight of it on the other end. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought you were just wasting time. I should have supported you. I shook my head, though she couldn't see me. But you didn't. There was another pause, and I could hear the sound of her breathing, as if she was gathering her thoughts. You know, Rachel, when you were younger, we always compared you to Sophia. We thought if we pushed you hard enough, you'd rise to the same level of success. But we never stopped to think about what you wanted. We didn't understand. Maybe that's the problem, I said quietly. You never really understood me. You just saw what you wanted to see. The silence stretched between us again, and when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry. I closed my eyes, taking in a deep breath. I don't need your apology, Mom. I've been fine without your approval. But you need to understand that I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. She stayed quiet for a moment, the weight of my words sinking in. We didn't know, Rachel. We thought we were doing what was best for you, but we failed you. Can you forgive us? I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to scream, to let all the anger and hurt out. But another part of me felt numb. Forgiveness wasn't something I was ready for. Maybe I never would be. I don't know, I said finally. Maybe someday, but not today. I hung up shortly after that, feeling the heavy silence of the apartment settle in around me. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Was I supposed to feel relieved that my mother finally acknowledged her mistakes? Or was I just tired of trying to fix something that might never be right again? I picked up my phone, distracted by the constant buzzing, text messages, calls, all from the family. Nathaniel, Sophia, my parents, they wanted to talk. But I wasn't ready. I had come this far by not caring about their opinions, and now it was just noise. I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their expectations. I had worked too hard for this life. This was mine. I tossed my phone on the couch and walked to my desk, staring at the screen. Client flow had grown so much in the past few years. The success was undeniable, but it wasn't the kind of success they would understand. It wasn't the kind that could be measured by awards or weddings. It was something deeper, something that couldn't be quantified by their standards. But then, there was still this part of me that wanted them to see me, to finally realize that I wasn't a failure. Maybe, just maybe, that's why their rejection still stung so much. It was a part of me I hadn't yet let go of, the hope that one day, they would understand. But tonight, I wasn't going to think about that. Tonight I had a business to run. And if they couldn't accept that, then that was their problem. I had come this far alone. And I would continue to move forward, no matter how much they tried to pull me back. I sat down at my desk and turned my attention to the next step in my plan. I wasn't going to let anyone else dictate my worth. Not now, not ever again. I didn't hear from my family for a few days after that phone call. At first, I was relieved. It was like a break from the constant pressure, the expectations. But that peace didn't last long. The quiet began to gnaw at me, like an ache I couldn't shake. I knew I was angry, but there was a deeper feeling lurking beneath it. Hurt. I pushed it aside, focusing instead on client flow. Business was booming. We had a new round of investment, and we were looking at expanding our software to new markets. It was everything I had worked for, but something inside me wasn't satisfied. Every time I checked my phone and saw another message from my parents, Sophia or Nathaniel, I felt like I was being pulled back into their orbit. Then, on a Tuesday morning, I got the call from Ethan. He was my old friend and now one of my business partners. We'd met years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. He'd been one of the first people to see my vision and offer his support when no one else would. Ethan wasn't just a business ally. He was one of the few people who had never doubted me. "Hey Rachel." His voice was calm, but I could tell something was up. "Have you seen what's happening on social media?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Just look at your feed," he said. "You're trending. A bunch of big business accounts are sharing your story, your win at the awards, everything. It's blowing up." I opened my phone, already feeling the familiar rush of anxiety. There it was, pictures of me with the governor, the crystal trophy gleaming in my hand, headlines from Forbes, Business Insider, and TechCrunch. Every time I refreshed, the likes and comments increased. It felt strange, seeing myself plastered across the internet like that. It wasn't that I wasn't proud of my accomplishments, but all the attention felt foreign. It wasn't just about the business anymore. It was about everything I had tried to keep separate. The past, my family, the long years of being overlooked. Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts. "This is big, Rachel. You've made it. People are noticing you in ways they never have before." I nodded, but my thoughts were elsewhere. The comments were flooding in, some congratulatory, others questioning how I had kept it all a secret. There were also messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, college friends, former colleagues, people who had never been there for me when I needed them. Now they were all reaching out, acting like we were close. It hit me, all at once. This wasn't just about the business anymore. It was about proving to the world that I was worth something. I had spent so long working to silence my family's judgment, trying to make them see me. But now that I was being recognized for what I had built, it felt hollow. I closed my phone and leaned back in my chair, staring at the walls of my office. The noise from social media still buzzed in the background, but I was no longer listening. I had achieved everything I set out to do professionally, but what about personally? What about my relationship with my family? Was it all worth it if they still didn't see me for who I truly was? The door to my office opened, and Jessica stepped in. She was carrying a coffee cup and gave me a quick smile before sitting down across from me. "I saw the headlines," she said, her voice warm. "You're everywhere, Rachel. People are calling you the future of small business tech." I tried to smile, but it felt forced. "It's surreal, isn't it?" Jessica took a sip of her coffee and raised an eyebrow. "You don't look thrilled." I shrugged, trying to push the thoughts away. "I don't know, it just feels strange. You know, it's like everything I've done is being seen by the world. But I'm still the same person. Still the one my family doesn't understand." Jessica studied me for a moment before speaking. "I get it. You've been working so hard for this, but it's not just about the recognition, is it? You want them to see you, to see who you really are." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked out the window, watching the city buzz below. Everything had changed on the outside, but inside, I was still struggling with the same unresolved pain. The need for my family's approval had shaped so much of my life, but now that I was achieving everything I had set out to do, I realized something. I didn't need their validation, not anymore. "Maybe I'm just tired of waiting for them to see me," I said finally. "Maybe it's time to stop trying to prove myself to people who never believed in me." Jessica smiled. "I think that's the first time I've heard you say that. You've come a long way, Rachel." I looked at her and nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I have, haven't I? For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe a little easier. The struggle to prove myself, to chase after validation from people who couldn't understand my journey, it wasn't worth it. I had built something on my own. I didn't need their approval to define my success. And for the first time, I was ready to let go of the past. As the days passed, the business continued to grow, but so did my sense of peace. I didn't need the approval of my family to know that I had done something great. And with that realization, something in me shifted. The desire for their recognition faded, replaced by something more important, the ability to stand on my own, proud of what I had accomplished, without needing anyone else to validate it. It was a feeling I wasn't used to, but it felt like freedom. Finally, I was free. The aftermath of the awards ceremony was a whirlwind. My phone buzzed constantly, even after I turned it off during the event. The notifications kept coming: texts, emails, social media posts. For the first time, the world seemed to be acknowledging me. But instead of feeling proud, I felt exposed. It was a feeling I couldn't shake, no matter how many people congratulated me. The next morning, I woke up to find my inbox flooded. Business leaders, investors, journalists, all wanting a piece of the story. They all wanted to know how a 26-year-old dropout had built an $83 million tech company from scratch. It wasn't just the business press, there were personal messages too. A text from Sophia. Another one from my mom. I ignored them. I sat in my office, looking at the screen, the images of my acceptance speech still fresh in my mind, the applause, the pictures with the governor, the validation. Yet, something gnawed at me. I couldn't escape the feeling that everything had come at a cost. The world had finally seen me, but had my family. They hadn't reached out, not in any real way. Sophia's silence cut the deepest. The message she had sent, telling me I would embarrass her at her wedding. It still echoed in my mind. I knew she hadn't been the only one who thought that. My parents, Nathaniel, they all had their own reasons for excluding me, and I had spent years trying to convince myself that I didn't need their approval. But the truth was harder to face. I was finally successful, but I was still fighting for their recognition. I was still battling that deep-seated need to prove I was worthy of their love. I had spent so much of my life avoiding these feelings, locking them away behind my work. But now, they were staring me in the face. I couldn't ignore them anymore. My phone rang again and I glanced at the screen. It was from my mom. I hesitated before answering, bracing myself for whatever was coming next. "Rachel," she said softly. "I saw the article. I saw you with the governor." I cut her off. "You saw it. Good, you finally see me." Her voice trembled. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just trying to protect you. We didn't understand. I didn't know how to support you." I was quiet for a long moment. I wanted to say so many things, but I wasn't sure I could find the words. "You didn't ask. You never tried to understand." "I know," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her apology. I wasn't sure if I could accept it. But for the first time, I heard the sincerity in her voice. It was different from all the times before, when they had brushed me off, when they had dismissed me, without a second thought. "I did this," I said slowly, my voice thick with emotion. "All on my own. You didn't see it, and I didn't care. But now I need you to see me, not just for the success, but for who I am." There was another long pause before she spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I see you now, Rachel, and I'm proud of you. I just wish I had seen it sooner." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken truths. For a moment, I thought about what it would mean to truly forgive them. To let go of all the resentment that had built up over the years. But it wasn't that easy, not yet. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, my voice strained. "But I'll think about it." "Take your time," she replied softly. "I just want you to know that I see you now. And I love you." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I sat there in silence, letting her words sink in. Maybe it wasn't about forgiveness. Maybe it was just about finally being seen for who I really was. Maybe that was all I needed. Later that day, I heard from Ethan. He'd been following the media storm surrounding the award, and his voice was filled with excitement when he called. "You're everywhere, Rachel," he said. "This is huge. We're getting offers left and right, investors, partnerships. Your company is going to blow up." I could hear the pride in his voice, but I didn't feel the rush of excitement that I expected. "I don't know, Ethan," I said quietly. "I'm not sure what I'm supposed to feel right now." He paused for a moment. "You're still processing, right? This is a big change. You've been working for this moment your whole life and now it's here. But it's not just about the business, is it?" I sighed. "It's not. I thought it would be. But now I don't know if I'm ready for everything that comes with it." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "You've built something incredible, Rachel. You've earned this. Whatever happens with your family, your success is real. And that's something no one can take away from you." I knew he was right. But it didn't make the pain of rejection go away. The emptiness was still there, lurking beneath the surface, and I wasn't sure how to fill it. The next day, I decided to take a walk. I needed to clear my head, to stop feeling so lost in the whirlwind of success. I walked through the streets of Austin, my mind racing with thoughts of the future. As I walked, I realized that the recognition, the success, it didn't matter as much as I thought it would. What mattered was the journey. What mattered was how I had gotten here and who I had become along the way. For the first time, I understood that my worth wasn't tied to my family's approval or anyone else's validation. It was tied to the work I had put in, to the risks I had taken, and to the life I had built for myself, and that was enough. As I walked back to my apartment, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. I wasn't defined by my family's expectations anymore. I wasn't defined by the accolades or the business deals. I was defined by the strength it had taken to stand alone, to believe in myself when no one else did. And that strength, it was something no one could ever take away from me. A few days after my conversation with my mother, I received another call. This time, it was from Nathaniel. I stared at the phone for a long moment before answering, my finger hovering over the screen. I didn't know what he wanted, but I didn't care. I knew it wasn't going to be anything that would make me feel better. "Rachel," he said, his voice stiff. "We haven't had a chance to properly meet, and I think we should. I'm sorry about the wedding. Sophia was under a lot of pressure, and it wasn't about you. It was about the situation." I sat back in my chair, not sure what to say. My heart was pounding. Why was he calling now? After everything that had happened. After all the years of neglect. All the ways they had made me feel invisible. Was it really about making amends, or was it about saving face? "Is this about your family?" I asked, my voice flat. "Because if it is, you can tell them I'm not interested in any more apologies." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear him weighing his words. "It's not about that. I want to talk to you. You've built something incredible, Rachel. I think we could work together." I raised an eyebrow, already irritated. "Work together? Now that I'm worth something, you want to talk?" His tone softened, but I wasn't buying it. "No, it's not like that. I just think there's an opportunity for both of us." "My family or family?" I cut him off. "You mean the ones who couldn't even be bothered to invite me to a wedding? Who left me out like I didn't matter?" "No, Nathaniel, I'm done with all of that." I stood up from my desk, walking to the window to calm myself down. The view of Austin's skyline, the busy streets below, felt so far removed from everything I was feeling right then. The quiet hum of the city outside only made me feel more alone. Nathaniel's voice was more insistent now. "Rachel, please, I'm asking for your time. The Grant family needs to recognize what you've done. They're already talking about you. And I think there's a way we could collaborate. I'm trying to fix things for both of us." I almost laughed, but it was bitter, dry. "You think by offering me some business deal, you can make up for all the years of making me feel worthless? You think that's going to fix anything?" There was silence on the other end, and for a moment I felt a pang of something like regret. Maybe I had pushed too hard. Maybe there was a chance for us to rebuild, for me to find some kind of peace with them. But no, the truth was too clear now. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I don't need your help, not now, not ever." Before he could respond, I hung up. I stood in the silence of my office, feeling the weight of what had just happened. The conversation, the words that had been said, and the things left unsaid. I was proud of myself, exhausted. For the first time, I realized how much I had been holding on to, hoping for reconciliation, for validation from people who would never understand me. I wanted so badly to be seen by them, to be loved and accepted. But in that moment, I knew that no matter how much I achieved, no matter how many awards I won or how much my company grew, they would never see me the way I needed them to. Not unless I made them see me, and even then, I wasn't sure it would matter. But what Nathaniel had said about working together stuck with me. Not because I wanted to do business with him or the Grant family, but because it reminded me of how far I had come. The idea of collaborating with someone like him, someone who once looked down on me, felt like the ultimate irony. He had no idea what I had built. He had no idea what it took to get here. I looked down at the trophy sitting on my desk, the one from the awards ceremony. It glittered in the light, a symbol of everything I had fought for. For so long, it had felt like a distant dream. But now it was real. And no one, not Nathaniel, not Sophia, not even my parents, could take it away from me. I sat down at my desk, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. There was still so much to do, so many plans to execute, so many projects to lead. But I couldn't deny that something inside me had shifted. I didn't need their approval to succeed. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. For the first time in my life, I was building my own future, one that had nothing to do with anyone else's expectations. Later that afternoon, I received another text. This one was from Sophia. I debated whether I should open it. Part of me didn't want to, but another part of me needed to know. I clicked it open. "I'm sorry, Rachel," it read. "I was wrong. I should have invited you. I was scared, and I let everyone's opinions control me. I've been a terrible sister." I stared at the screen for a long time. There it was, the apology I had waited for, the one I had hoped would come. But the truth was, it wasn't enough. I had waited too long, and in that time, I had learned something more important than forgiveness. I had learned to let go. I typed my response, my fingers steady. "I appreciate the apology, but I'm not ready to forgive you yet. Maybe someday, but not today." I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair, taking a deep breath. This wasn't about them anymore. This was about me, about my journey, about building something that was mine and mine alone. And for the first time, I was okay with that. The days after my conversation with Sophia were strangely quiet. The silence hung in the air, like the calm before a storm. I didn't know if I should reach out to her, if I even wanted to. Part of me wanted to, but another part of me knew that nothing would be the same again. The weight of the years of neglect, the years of being dismissed, was too heavy to forget in a moment. Business was booming, but something felt off. I was hitting all the targets. The growth was undeniable. Client flow was thriving. But it wasn't just about the numbers anymore. The recognition, the validation, it felt hollow, like a distant echo of something I thought would bring me peace. It didn't. I had made a choice to focus on myself, to stop chasing approval from the people who never understood me. Yet, every time I logged into my email or checked social media, the messages kept coming. "Can we meet? Let's talk business. Let's talk about the future." It wasn't just from investors or clients anymore. It was from my family. They had seen my success, and now they wanted a piece of it. Nathaniel called again. This time I didn't hesitate. "I answered. "We need to talk," he said. "My family wants to meet with you. They've seen your success, and they want to discuss potential partnerships." I took a deep breath. "Nathaniel, I'm not interested in any business deals with your family. Not after everything that happened." "Look, I know we've had our differences," he said quickly, "but this isn't about us. It's about your business. The grants can offer you connections, opportunities you won't get anywhere else. This is about your future." I stood up, pacing across the room, trying to hold my ground. "I don't need them, Nathaniel. I've built this on my own. I've built something real, and it doesn't have to include them." He sighed on the other end of the line. "I get it, Rachel, I really do. But what's the harm in hearing them out?" I paused, considering his words. It wasn't about the business. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving something, proving to myself that I didn't need them. But part of me was still torn. The idea of proving them wrong, of showing them that I could succeed without their help, was tempting. It was just hard to let go of the need to be seen, to be respected by the people who had always dismissed me. "I'm not doing this for them, Nathaniel," I said firmly. "I'm doing this for me." The silence stretched between us for a moment before he spoke again, his voice softer this time. "I understand. I just wanted to make sure you knew you had options." "I don't need options. I need peace," I replied, my voice steady. "And I'm getting there. Without them." I ended the call shortly after that, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. I had turned down another offer, another chance to prove something to them. But I knew deep down that this wasn't the life I wanted. I didn't want to keep proving myself to people who didn't truly care. I wanted to prove it to myself, for once. Over the next few days, I focused on the company. The growth was incredible. We were expanding into new markets, gaining traction in industries I never thought possible. The team was strong and every day felt like a step forward. But even as the business flourished, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. I called Jessica, needing someone to talk to. She had always been there for me, no matter what. "Hey," she said, her voice full of warmth when she picked up. How's everything going? I took a deep breath, running my fingers through my hair. It's going well. Business is booming, but I don't know, I feel like something's still off. Jessica was quiet for a moment. You've been carrying this for so long, Rachel. The weight of proving yourself, trying to get their approval. I think it's finally catching up with you. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, it is. I thought the success would fix it. I thought it would make everything feel better. It doesn't work like that, she said softly. But you're not doing it for them anymore, are you? No, I replied, the words coming more easily now. I'm not, I thought I was, but I'm doing it for me. For the first time, I'm building something that's mine. Something that's real. Jessica's voice was warm, proud. That's the Rachel I know. You've come a long way. I have, haven't I? I smiled, the weight lifting just a little. But even as I said it, I knew there was still work to do. There was still a part of me that longed for their recognition, for them to see me and acknowledge what I had accomplished. But that part of me was getting smaller, fading away as I realized that my worth didn't lie in their eyes. It never had. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, looking out over the city. The lights twinkled in the distance, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. The silence was no longer suffocating. It was comforting. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Sophia. Another chance to reconcile. But I didn't open it. Not yet. Maybe one day, but not today. Today I was enough. Today I had built something that no one could take away from me, and I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel small again. Not now. Not ever. Months passed, and things began to settle into a new rhythm. Client flow had grown even more, and my life had found a strange peace. I woke up every morning knowing that I had built something that was mine, something real. The noise from my family, the expectations, had quieted down. They still reached out, but I no longer felt the need to respond to every message. For the first time, I felt free from their gaze. I was no longer living to prove something to them. I kept moving forward, but now it was different. I wasn't in a rush anymore. I no longer felt the need to keep checking over my shoulder, waiting for their approval. I had stopped seeking their recognition and started valuing myself, for the first time ever. My team was growing, my company was flourishing, and I had begun to believe in myself in ways I hadn't thought possible. It wasn't all easy. There were still moments of doubt, moments when I questioned whether I had made the right choices, whether cutting off parts of my past had been the right way to move forward. I had lost a lot in this journey, family, connection, love, but I had gained something more important: independence, strength, the ability to stand on my own, without needing anyone else to validate my existence. Then came the invitation. It was an email, simple and professional. The subject line caught my eye. Invitation to speak at the University of Texas Business School. It had been 6 years since I left. The thought of returning, of facing the place where it all started, where I had felt so lost, so out of place, was overwhelming. But it was also right. I had come so far since then. Maybe it was time to return, to show the person I had become. To show them that leaving hadn't been a failure. It had been the beginning of something far bigger. The day of the event arrived. I stood in front of a room full of students, all of them eager, hopeful. Some of them probably just like I had been all those years ago. The weight of it all felt different now. I wasn't there to prove myself. I was there to share what I had learned. To show them that it was okay to take risks, to trust yourself even when no one else did. When I stepped up to the podium, the room fell silent. I scanned the audience, seeing faces of all backgrounds, all hopeful for something they could take with them, something that would help them understand how to navigate their own journey. My voice echoed in the hall as I spoke, and the words flowed more easily than I expected. I was a first-generation student, I said, my voice steady. I dropped out of college because I saw something others didn't. Everyone told me I was making a mistake, that I was throwing away my future. But what they didn't know was that I was building it. I had customers waiting for my product. I had investors lining up. My future didn't look like theirs, and that was okay. It's okay to take the path less traveled. The students were engaged, their eyes focused on me. I wasn't just speaking to them, I was speaking to myself as well. The girl who had once been too afraid to follow her instincts, the one who thought she wasn't good enough. I had become someone who trusted herself, and that was the real lesson I had learned. At the end of the day, I continued, it's not about what anyone else thinks. It's about what you build for yourself. It's about your own journey, your own growth. You have to trust in that. And if you fail along the way, that's not the end. It's just another step. The room erupted in applause, but this time, it felt different. It wasn't just applause for my success. It was applause for my story, for the journey I had taken to get there. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction, not because I had earned their approval, but because I knew I had earned my own. After the speech, dozens of students came up to speak with me, to share their own stories, their own struggles. I saw the same doubt in their eyes that I had once carried, but I also saw something else: hope. They were looking for a way to break free from the expectations that weighed them down, and in that moment, I realized that I had become the person I needed when I was in their shoes. Later that evening, I returned to my apartment. The day had been overwhelming, but in a way that felt fulfilling. I was proud of how far I had come, proud of the person I had become. And even though I wasn't ready to fully rebuild the relationships with my family, I knew that I had finally found peace. I had created a life that was truly mine. As I sat down at my desk, I glanced at the trophy from the Governor's Business Awards. It still sat there, a symbol of everything I had achieved, but it no longer held the same significance. It wasn't the award that defined me. It was the journey, the risks, the failures, the triumphs. I picked up my phone, and for the first time in months, I opened the message from Sophia. It was long, full of apologies, full of regret. She had written about how she had let the pressures of her life and her marriage cloud her judgment. How she wished she had been there for me. I read the message slowly, not rushing to respond. Part of me wanted to forgive her. Part of me still cared about the sister I had once known, but I wasn't ready to let go of the distance just yet. I typed a simple response, my fingers steady. Thank you for your apology. I think you're sorry, but I need time. Maybe someday we'll rebuild our relationship, but not today. I set my phone down, feeling a sense of finality. Maybe one day I would be ready to heal those wounds. But for now I was enough. And that was all that mattered. In the months that followed, my company continued to grow, reaching new heights. We expanded to new cities, hired more employees, and brought in even more clients. But the biggest change wasn't in the business, it was in me. I had built something real. And I had built it on my own terms. Sophia's marriage, as I had heard, eventually fell apart. Nathaniel and her couldn't sustain the pressure of keeping up appearances. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't expected: relief. I had let go of the need to fix everything, to be the person they wanted me to be. I had built my own life, one that didn't rely on anyone else's validation. 6 months later, I bought a new house. A beautiful modern home in Travis Heights, overlooking the city. It was mine, paid in full, no strings attached. I hadn't needed to explain it to anyone, and that was exactly how I wanted it. As I stood in the living room, looking out over the city lights, I realized something. I had found my place in this world, not through anyone else's eyes, but through my own. I had done it. I had built something that was mine. And nothing, not even family, could take that away from me. I had created my own story, and it was better than I ever could have imagined.